It's the International Day of Peace today. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1, bringing you the news from the news desk. I am Sandro Satyajit.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Let's start off by taking a look at your headlines for tonight.
Parliament heats up during debate on the Easter Sunday terror attacks. Opposition tells government to ask India about Abu Hind and true status of Sarah Jasmine. Acting Defence Minister says the opposition is aware of the true facts but continues to lie about it. Former President Sirisena and Field Marshal Fonseca clash over the Easter Sunday terror attack inquiry.
ඉන්දියාවේ හිටපු කාලේ මට 100,000ක් විශ්වාසයි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම සැලේ හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. කිසිම දවසක සැලේ මට හම්බෙලත් නැහැ. ඉන්දියාවේදී කිසි තැනක සැලේ මම ඉන්න තැනක් දැනගෙන හිටියෙත් නැහැ.
Political crisis was averted thanks to fertilizer gift from the US, says President. Wickremesinghe also meets with IMF Managing Director. Advanced level examination postponed. Revised dates to be announced soon. India suspends visas for Canadians as row escalates. Chinese geophysical scientific research vessel Shiyan 6 moves closer to India's exclusive economic zone.
On to your lead story now. This evening, opposition lawmaker Niroshan Pereira told Parliament that Sri Lanka must seek the assistance of the Indian Prime Minister to reveal the identity of Abu Hind, the person who is alleged to be behind the Easter Sunday terror attacks.
He made these comments while moving the motion to debate the Easter Sunday terror attacks. He alleged that most of the evidence, data and witnesses linked to the Easter Sunday terror attacks have already been concealed by those in authority.
ඒ පරීක්ෂණ වලින් හොයාගෙන තිබුණා Abu Hind කියන
The name Abu Hind was revealed in the process of the investigation. I assume that it was an intelligence service that handled Zaharan. That is why I say to seek the assistance of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for these investigations to reveal the identity of Abu Hind. The first warning of these attacks came from India. Therefore, it is important to seek the assistance of India to understand if this Abu Hind is from India or Sri Lanka. We need to know if this Abu Hind is actually Abu Saleh or Abu Rajapaksha. The government has announced that Sarah Jasmine is dead. In order to confirm her death, DNA tests had to be carried out 3 times. That is how the government conducted the investigation into the Easter Sunday terror attacks to achieve its desired results. The government is steering this investigation with officials who are loyal to them until the desired results are achieved.
ලදාරින් දාගෙන yes කියන හෙන්චයියන්ව දාගෙන මේක Tamanට ඕන විදියට කරකවන්න තමයි මේ රජය අද වෙනකොට කටයුතු කළා. ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ ඇවිල්ලා අගමැතිව පත් කරන්න.
After Gotabaya Rajapaksa was elected, even before appointing the Prime Minister, he removed Shani Abesekara, who investigated the Easter Sunday terror attacks. There is strong evidence to claim that Sarah Jasmine was not killed in the attacks. This woman was taken away by a police officer, IP Abu Bakr. There is evidence placed before the courts that Sarah Jasmine spoke to her mother after the attacks. IP Jaisingh, who conducted this inquiry, had passed away. They say he died of COVID-19 and he was cremated. Detectives who were involved in this investigation were either transferred or passed away under mysterious circumstances. Some intelligence service personnel linked to this have fled the country. Evidence was tampered with and the data was destroyed. That is why we say that given the present political and security apparatus, we cannot expect an independent investigation in this regard. If the investigations go ahead, all of them will be exposed. Intelligence officer IP Bandara was codenamed Sonic. And for how long did he maintain contact with these Muslim extremists? No investigation has taken place over the attempts that were made to direct responsibility of these attacks to ISIS. We are told that IP Bandara is no longer in the country. A key witness in this incident is not in the country. We need to know the nature of the relationship he had with Jamil, the suicide bomber who was at the Taj Hotel.
සාක්ෂිකරුවන්ව මේ රටින් පන්නලා තියෙනවා. තාජ් හෝටලයට ගිය මරාගෙන මැරෙන ජමීල් කියන බෝම්බකරුවා. එතුමා සමග මේ රටේ බුද්ධ්‍යංශ තිබුණු සම්බන්ධය මොකක්ද කියලා අපිට විශේෂයෙන්ම අහන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. මේ channel 4 නාලිකාවෙත් මේ සම්බන්ධව ඒ වගේම
Channel 4 in its program has raised allegations against State Minister Pillayan and the current intelligence chief Suresh Saleh. We witnessed the statements that were issued and the voice cuts that were given opposite the CID. If you are innocent, why can't you call for an independent investigation and face the inquiry? Gotabaya Rajapaksa questions the matter of Muslim extremists detonating bombs to make a Sinhala Buddhist leader the president of this country. Zaharan carried out the attacks because of his extremist ideologies. He wanted to kill those from other religions and also kill the tourists and send a message. However, the question is, was Zaharan taken care of by ensuring that he was not arrested by the security forces, given proper training to carry out a coordinated set of attacks with weapons and explosives for him to reach that objective? Although Zaharan's ambition was something else, it was Gotabaya Rajapaksa who became the president via those attacks. Some say that the local government elections were already won before the presidential poll. Have a look at those results again. Even if you collect all those votes, you never had 50%. The allegations you face is that the Easter Sunday attacks were carried out to increase that 50% voter base.
එක අරමුණක් මේ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරයේ බෝම්බ ප්‍රහාරය එල්ල කරේ කියලා තමයි ඔබතුමාලාට චෝදනා එල්ල වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
State Minister Sivanesa Ture Chandrakanthan, alias Pillayan, provided a response to parliamentarian Niroshan Pereira's statement. Thereafter, several opinions were expressed on the matter during the debate.
I wish to inform MP Niroshan Pereira that I am ready for an international investigation. Although you're in the opposition, tell me when it is held. I am ready. The attacks have happened. The president who resigned was willing to appoint your leader. It is regrettable to hear you say all this while disregarding that fact. These are shortcomings of the government. Those who are responsible for attacking the Temple of the Truth, killing Joseph Pararajasingham and Lasantha Vikramatunga are not allowing us to speak now. 600 policemen were also killed. The snake is uneasy when kerosene is thrown at it. These are all plans. The Tripoli platoon says they were contacted by Ranil Wickramasinghe. The leader of that group is here. He needs to be arrested and questioned immediately. The agreement to release him was fulfilled the minute Gotabaya won the election. The promise was to punish those responsible for the Easter attacks. Instead, they were given promotions. If that is the case, Zaharan was primed during your government. Do not demonize the Rajapakshas. If this was committed by terrorists, action should be taken against them. The channel making these claims is aligned with the LTTE. This should not be politicized. You can appear before the select committee. If you have any suspicions, raise them during the committee. If our intelligence services are criticized and thrown into disarray, our national security will be affected. The SLPP already had the mandate of the people. We won the local government election before the Easter attacks. If so, how can one say this was done to regain power? They are attempting to gain political mileage. We are not ready to sit in the parliament with people who have murdered others. We are in politics because our constituents chose us. I am speaking according to my conscience. Please sit down. You weren't even able to save your supporter. You were so deep in extremism, you couldn't even save your secretary. If you can prove that this was done to regain power, on that day, I will accept that I was wrong and not even contest for a general election. We do not need political advantage. This government has met its demise already. On the 26th of October 2018, former President Maithripala Sirisena removed the Prime Minister, dissolved the cabinet and appointed Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister illegally and forcefully. The people of this country remember those. That was Plan A. Plan A failed. Then they launched Plan B on the 26th of December 2018. Not even 2 weeks after Ranil Wickramasinghe was reappointed the Prime Minister, Buddha statues in Mavanalla were attacked. That was to destabilize the country and create issues for the government. On the 2nd of February 2019, the CID tells former President Sirisena, after the Vanathavilluwa case, that there is a link between Zaharan And these two incidents, they request him to convene the Security Council immediately, but he does not. Does this not raise suspicions? Does Channel 4 raise the most suspicions, or the ones sitting in the government?
ආරක්ෂක මණ්ඩලය ඉල්ලන්
I reject any sort of claim that says I was asked to convene the Security Council. No such request was made. The other thing is, before I appointed Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister, I called former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya 4 times and asked him to become the Prime Minister because I wasn't able to work with the Prime Minister at the time due to policy conflicts. I did not make Mahinda Rajapaksa the Prime Minister out of the blue. I invited the second and third leader of the UNP multiple times, but since they did not accept, I had to make a decision. It is a very long story. I won't speak about it now.
ඒ අනුව තමයි එහෙම පත් කරන්න සිද්ධ වුණේ.
මේ දිවුරුන්දීමේ මේ වීඩියෝ පටිය
Before the video of him swearing in was released to the internet, an MLA in India
in India in his Facebook has uploaded it. ඒ කොහොමද වුනේ? තොරතුරු ඇවිල්ලා
How did that happen? Such a chaotic incident was about to happen. The defense minister of the country that provided the intelligence was scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka that week. He arrived and held a conference on security. Were they notified of these? All of us have arrived at the conclusion that an international investigation is required for this. Do not waste more time by appointing select committees.
අපි පාර්ලිමේන්තු තේරීම් කාරක සභාව දාලා මේව යට ගහන්න බෑ.
මේ ISIS thrust
This is another attack in a series of attacks conducted by the ISIS. It is dangerous to claim that these attacks were carried out to make Gotabaya Rajapaksa the president. It is as dangerous as this attack.
මේ ප්‍රහාරය තරමටම
පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරයට දින 4කට විතර කලින්
Around 4 days before this attack, the president left for India. Even at that moment, he had met Nilantha Jayawardena. He should take responsibility for not initiating proper steps. Prior to the attack, the Security Council had not convened for 2 months. That was because the then president and Gotabaya Rajapaksa associated quite closely. On the 3rd of January 2019, Suresh Saleh, who was in Malaysia, was sent to India. That too was done by the then defense minister, who was the president. Maithripala Sirisena fled to India before the 21st of April. On the day of the attack, he was in Singapore. I am 1000% sure he met Saleh in India. If a president is travelling to a certain country, he will definitely meet the defense attaché in that country's embassy.
ජනාධිපති මුණ ගැහෙනවා ඒ රටේ ඇවිල්ලා හම්බ වෙනවා. සිමුලාසනේ ඉන්න මන්ත්‍රීතුමනේ මේ පට්ටපල් බොරු කියන්නේ. ඒව කට වහගෙන අහගෙන ඉන්න කියන්න. පස්සේ කියන්න කියන්න. සලේ හිටියේ කොහෙද? තිරුපති තියෙන්නේ කොහෙද?
Where was Saleh and where is Tirupati located? I have travelled to Tirupati multiple times. I have never met Saleh. Saleh did not know of my whereabouts in India. These are blatant lies. His camp was attacked when he was the army commander.
මෙයාගේ හමුදා හඳවුරට ගහලා ඒවට මම උත්තර දෙන්නම්.
I will never answer those. Ask him to stay quiet. An army commander does not man the post outside the army camp. There was another general in charge of it. It was 12 a.m. in Singapore when the bombs went off. He left at 3 p.m. Singapore time. He is one of the two masterminds. One is Gotabaya. He is the other. Saleh is only an intermediary. He cannot orchestrate such an attack.
වැඩක් කරන්න.
These are blatant lies. When he was the army commander, thousands of soldiers lost their lives at a time. He should be held responsible for those.
නෑ මොනවත්වත්.
මේක මට මේ සභාවේ කියන්න වීම පිළිබඳව මම කනගාටු වෙනවා මූලාසනාරූඪ මන්ත්‍රී.
I am disappointed that I have to announce this in this house. We have reached a point where this needs to be said. All these events were briefed to all these MPs who were invited for the session at Committee Room Number 1. Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas, Terrorist Investigation Division, intelligence chiefs as well as the CID detectives led the session. Any question could have been posed during that session. MPs raised questions and got their answers. However, after listening to the truth at that session, the MPs are here in the house saying something else. I wonder how the officials in the box were listening to this debate. I cannot wonder how the intelligence personnel and the security forces personnel outside this house are listening to these comments. They are aware of the truth.
බලාගෙන හිටියේ බොහොම කනගාටුවෙන්. මන් දන්නේ මේ කුටිය ඇතුළේ ඉන්න නිලධාරීන් මේ විවාදේ කොහොම බැලුවද කියලා මට හිතා ගන්න බෑ. ඒ වගේම බුද්ධියංශයේ හමුදාවේ පොලිසියේ ඉන්න නිලධාරීන් එළියේ ඉඳලා මේ විවාදේ කොහොම ඉවසගෙන අහගෙන ඉන්නවද කියලා මට හිතා ගන්න බෑ. මේ අය දන්නවා සත්‍ය මොකද්ද උනේ කියලා. ගරු මූලාසනාරූඪ මන්ත්‍රීතුමනි මේ සොනික් කියන්නේ අපිට ඉන්න
Sonic is an intelligence officer. There is no need to hide that. He is the person who sneaked into this terror cell and extracted information. He portrayed himself as a terrorist. That is how you need to be with those terrorists. He cannot be present with them as a police officer. They need to understand this, and we need to have a parliament that is mature enough to understand it. We will have to obtain any information of future influencers in the same manner, and there is no other alternative. This needs to be understood. How can we ask an intelligence officer in the future to engage in an undercover mission? This is the country that will extract the information and imprison the officer.
අපි කොහොමද කියන්නේ අපි බුද්ධි නිලධාරියෙක්ට ඉදිරියේදී මේ මිෂන් එකක් කරන්න කියලා. ඒකේ තොරතුරු අරන් මේක මූකරේ කියලා ගහලා ඒකොල්ලව හිරේ දාන රටක් නෙමේක. මඩ ගහන රටක් නෙමේක. අබූ හින්ද් මූලාසනාරූඪ මන්ත්‍රීතුමනි මේක කියන්න ඕනේ නිසා කියන්නේ. සහරාන්ගේ ජාලයේද තම ක්‍රියාකාරකම්
Abu Hind, Zahran and his network used online platforms for their activities. This is a pseudonym that was used by an international intelligence agency to get in contact with this group of extremists and extract information. I said this because I had to.
අනවත්ත නාමයක්. මේ කතාව මේ කොටසත් මම කිව්වේ අකමැත්තෙන් නොකියා බැරි කමට.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe will address the 78th United Nations General Assembly in just a short while in New York, USA. Now, the UN General Assembly, which opened earlier this week, will come to a close during the weekend.
Right on time. Right on time. Okay. I think this is the most breathy space. Okay. So, I saw you everywhere. Yes, I've been walking around and saying.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, to discuss vital economic matters. During the meeting, Georgieva and President Wickremesinghe delved into the ongoing fiscal sector reforms and the substantial progress made in debt restructuring initiatives. President Wickremesinghe also addressed the high-level dialogue on financing for development at the United Nations 78th General Assembly in New York.
When bankruptcy was declared, all external financial dealings came to a halt. We are heading for a major political crisis again. But thanks to the fact that Sri Lanka had to apply for regraduation and was able to obtain it in a short time, and the gift of fertilizer from the US government, we were able to prevent another political crisis taking place. This year, the projected global GDP is 105 trillion US dollars. Of this, 91 trillion US dollars is the public debt. So we are working on these assumptions. Currently, $100 billion is available as a part of the IMF Resilience and Sustainability Trust. In the interim, let us utilize this fund. The first step is to get the IMF Resilience Fund to start functioning. Then the Secretary General's SDG stimulus calls for $500 billion to be made available annually to developing countries, as well as converting short-term lending into long-term debt at lower interest rates. This still has to be realized. There are two other proposals that were made here. One is the World Bank proposal to ease out subsidies on fertilizer and fuel. What is the relief that we can give people? There I would recommend President Ruto's proposal on writing off or giving relief on the debt of the low-income countries. I know there are genuine concerns of the creditors. There has to be something there has to be concrete relief available to the low-income country. We don't provide that relief immediately. We can, I think, write off all the other proposals we have.
The Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, said international support has fallen short against the growing needs.
Countries are grappling with pandemics, food insecurity, climate shocks, geopolitical tensions, and economic fragmentation. For many vulnerable countries, this is taking place at the time of triple funding squeeze. Fiscal space and reserves shrunk after years of shocks. Debt has gone up, and servicing it is tougher because of tighter financial conditions. International support has fallen short against the growing needs. Countries must act swiftly to increase their own resources. The good news is that with strong reforms, they can do so.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe held a discussion with Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland, on the sidelines of the 78th United Nations General Assembly. The discussions between President Wickremesinghe and Secretary General Scotland revolved around crucial aspects of the ongoing cooperation between Sri Lanka and the Commonwealth Secretariat. They also delved into the implementation of decisions made by leaders during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting held last year in Rwanda. President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with the Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, where both sides expressed a strong desire to bolster economic ties between the two nations. His Majesty, the King of Malaysia, has extended a formal invitation to the President of Sri Lanka to engage in a state visit to Malaysia in 2024. The King's invitation was personally conveyed by the Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim during bilateral discussions on the sidelines of the UNGA in New York. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, speaking at the Climate Ambition Summit on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, affirmed Sri Lanka's commitment to the Secretary General's accelerated climate agenda. He highlighted the importance of tangible climate actions and commended the delegates for their valuable suggestions. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe is accompanied by Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri, SLPP MPs Rohita Begunawarddena, Mahindananda Aluthgamage and Premnath Dolawatta, as well as UNP Deputy Leader Ruwan Wijewardena and SJB MP Vadivel Suresh during his visit to New York.
A heated exchange broke out in Parliament over the delegation that is accompanying the President in New York.
There is a shortage of medicine and medical equipment in the country. Surgeries and operations are not being conducted. People are dying because of substandard medicine that is being used. People are unable to live. Small and medium-scale industries have collapsed. The tea industry has collapsed. Rubber, coconut and the livelihood of people has collapsed. Everything has collapsed. The country is facing a financial crisis. So, when there is such a crisis, MPs responsible for bankrupting the country are with the President at the UN. What sort of a joke is this?
ඩෙලිගේෂන් වල යන මන්ත්‍රීවරු නඩත්තු වෙන්නේ අපේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ බදු සල්ලි වලින් මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ ජනාධිපතිවරයා ප්‍රමුඛ නිලධාරී මණ්ඩලය කියන ඔබතුමා වෙනම කතා.
When you speak on separate issues, we cannot follow the agenda. I would like to direct your attention to follow this agenda.
මල්ලගේ කතාවල්දී ඔබ කියන්න
ඔබතුමායි කතාවේදී ඔබතුමායි කතාව කියන්න.
පක්ෂ නායක රැස්වීමේදී
At the party leaders meeting, we were not aware that the MPs responsible for bankrupting the nation would be part of the President's delegation to the UN. There is no issue in being accompanied by officials, but he has taken along an SLPP group that bankrupted the country. This is done to please the crossovers. The people's tax money is being used for this. His father was also a president and was instrumental in bankrupting this country. He also served as a minister in a government. The SLPP was created recently. He should be held more responsible for this. What he is saying is talking about this is madness. So speaking about MPs who bankrupted the country heading to the UN is madness.
Is there really a difference? Because the initial bill was withdrawn for a reason.
We can rope in trade unions, we can rope in protesters against the government. That is not democratic.
What we've seen, the latest version of this doesn't seem to capture many of the suggestions that we have made.
The anti-terrorism law comes in securing the rights of the citizens. But here we don't see that.
With regard to the PGA, it is the poorest of the poor that gets affected because they don't have the ability to go to the Supreme Court.
Face the Nation. Repeat telecast tomorrow at 7 p.m.
News first with the people.
Minister of Education Susil Premajantha says that the amended dates for the 2023 advanced level examination will be announced next week by the Commissioner of Examinations.
The Commission of Examination will be announcing the revised dates for the advanced level examination next week. This is after taking into consideration the delay in releasing the results of the 2022 advanced level examinations and receiving over 18,000 more applications for revision of results compared to the previous year. Therefore, in order to avoid any injustice to the students who do not have sufficient time to prepare for the examination and to avoid any inconveniences to the school term calendar, the decision was made.
There was a delay in releasing of results. It was a reasonable time period given for the students who intend on sitting for the examination for the time to apply for the exam.
We have received 18,000 applications after the results were released. After the portal was opened, there was time to apply until the 18th. With the postponement, there will be another group to apply. So please consider them as well. These are the lives of children.
The Free Media Movement points out that there is a risk that the online safety bill will be used to take away freedom of speech and expression and suppress those with dissenting views. In a statement, the FMM emphasized that Sri Lankan authorities have abused the ICCPR Act in the past, and it is likely that the proposed legislation will also be used the same way.
The Free Media Movement questions whether it is just to term the commission that will be appointed as per the proposal bill an independent commission if the President is the person who appoints the said commission according to the provisions outlined in the bill. They point out that this challenges the presumption of innocence as well as freedom of expression. Instead of introducing a repressive act, the Free Media Movement is questioning the government as to why the existing legal system is not being used strongly, including encouraging the adoption of community standards and ethics related to the use of social media and increasing the digital literacy of citizens. Pointing out that the government should be pressured to withdraw this bill, the Free Media Movement emphasizes that a society that values freedom of speech and expression and responds in a civilized manner instead of suppressing ideas needs to be created.
International maritime traffic monitoring platforms revealed that the Chinese geophysical scientific research vessel Xi'an 6 is engaged in either research or observation activities close to the exclusive economic zone of India. Now, the vessel was reportedly moving closer to the Nicobar Islands at a very slow pace.
The Chinese geophysical scientific research vessel Xi'an 6 entered the Indian Ocean via the Malacca Strait and was observed close to the Nicobar Islands. The vessel that was heading towards Sri Lanka yesterday later turned to the Bay of Bengal and proceeded towards the Nicobar Islands, located close to the exclusive economic zone of India, at a very slow pace. When monitoring the route of this vessel, it was observed that the Xi'an 6 was moving along the 90 East Ridge, a one-dimensional structure situated on the floor of the Indian Ocean. The Yuan Wang 5 that reached Sri Lanka last year and the Xi'an Hong that reached the island over the past 3 years also engaged in operations in the area known as the 90 East Ridge. In the past 2 decades, India and the United States have engaged in multiple research projects in this area called the 90 East Ridge.
Foreign media reports the rapidly spreading Nipah virus has now spread to India, Bangladesh, Singapore and the Philippines. The World Health Organization has warned that this is a virus that spreads from bats and swine to humans.
Doctors warn that the symptoms of the virus include high fever, vomiting and respiratory infections and can develop into brain swelling if it worsens. Recently, cases of Nipah virus had been reported from the Indian state of Kerala, but the virus was first identified in Malaysia in 1999. 2 people in Kerala have died due to the virus.
Civil groups protests in Colombo demanding justice.
A protest took place at the Liberty Circle in Colombo, themed "We Want Justice, We Demand Accountability." The group protested by displaying several placards.
We can see the current president managing the country well, similar to how Gotabaya did. There is no change. The corrupt system remains in place to this day. There is no accountability. There is no one responsible for the central bank scam. It has been more than 4 years, but no action has been taken over the Easter Sunday attacks. Those who bankrupt the country are being serviced by the people's money. That is the state of affairs in this country. The people who wanted a system change continue to remain in the streets demanding it. You can appease the international community, but they too see the ground reality. There is no justice for anything in this country.
We have some very problematic bills that have been presented. The online bill, the ATA, these are all things that are, for to suppress the dissent of the people. So we are here in protest of that. We also see a huge amount of expenditure that has been spent on this foreign travels. We feel that when elections have been postponed, people have been suffering without proper medication. There's a huge crisis in the medical industry. We really feel that there is an absence of transparency and there is an absence of accountability.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri spoke on the sidelines of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri participated in the 18th ministerial meeting of the Asia Cooperation Dialogue on the sidelines of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
It is essential that the World Health Organization coordinates a centralized platform to ensure equitable allocation and expansion of global capacities to produce and promptly deliver affordable pandemic-related products. It would ensure adequate, prompt and effective pandemic prevention, preparedness, response and recovery capacity and their operationalization. Secondly, the global R&D and ecosystem that is conducive to cooperation, including open approaches and which facilitates the participation of developing nations. Hopefully, the inequalities that we witnessed during the COVID pandemic, notably relating to R&D, will not be repeated in a future pandemic. Sri Lanka hopes that this meeting will generate the political will for international and multi-sectoral cooperation and commitment to achieving a more equitable response to the future pandemic as well as concrete outcome for the Geneva discussions.
The semi-finals of the All-Ireland Inter-School Shakespeare Drama Competition, more commonly known as Shakes, concluded on Wednesday. News First's Senitha Senanaika filed this report.
And what will you do now?
The All-Ireland Inter-School Shakespeare Drama Competition is being held in its original form after 2019, returning to the stage after a hiatus of 4 years. The semi-finals of the competition was held on the 18th, 19th and the 20th of September. The All-Ireland Inter-School Shakespeare Drama Competition, more commonly known as Shakes, is organised by the Rotary Club of Colombo North and the Colombo YMCA.
This is the 48th year that we are having the competition, and it's great to have so many schools participating this year. We have 34 semi-finalists, 17 girls schools and 17 boys schools, and it's great to see the enthusiasm, the competition. It's also a great opportunity for the students to get on stage, and we hope you will come and support us or the schools that get into the finals next week.
Ladies College, Devi Balika Vidyalaya, Visakha Vidyalaya and St. Nicholas International College Nigambo were shortlisted for the finals of the Girls' School competition, which will be held on the 27th of September. St. Thomas's Catholic International College, Ananda College, St. Joseph's College Colombo and D.S. Senanaika College were the finalists of the competition. Finals of the Boys' Schools competition will be held on the 30th of September. Senitha Senanaika, News First, Colombo.
Today marks the International Day of Peace.
Yes, Sandra, the UN General Assembly has declared this as a day devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace.
Now, however, this year, the day comes at a very pivotal time. World leaders have convened at the UN in New York during the International Day of Peace today. However, all of this happens in the backdrop of one of the most documented wars ever in history, the Ukraine war, and while other political and diplomatic tensions simmer in the world.
Now let's take a look at what's happening all around the world.
Peace is often defined as the absence of war. Each year, the International Day of Peace is observed around the world on the 21st of September. The United Nations was formed following the most brutal war in history, the Second World War. The United Nations General Assembly has declared this as a day devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace through observing 24 hours of non-violence and ceasefire. This year's theme is Actions for Peace, our ambition for the global goals. According to the United Nations, fostering peace contributes to the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. However, despite the many calls for peace and prosperity from local and foreign authorities, there has been no improvement both in Sri Lanka and around the world. Many parts of the world are ravaged in conflict today. One of the most documented wars in history, the Ukraine war, has made headlines across the world since Russia's hostile attacks in February 2022. In the Asian continent, the Chinese and Indian geopolitical agendas have begun to simmer. For instance, the G20 summit. It was the first time a Chinese leader has not attended the summit since it was held in 2008. In the African continent, Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum was ousted from office by a group of soldiers, hours after members of his guard detained him at the presidential palace in the capital, throwing the country into political turmoil. As the International Day of Peace is observed today, in the backdrop of all of these conflicts, the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, the 54th session of the Human Rights Council, are all taking place today.
Meanwhile, diplomatic tensions between India and Canada are at an all-time high. India has suspended visa services for Canadian citizens amid an escalating row over the killing of a Sikh separatist on Canadian soil. Visa service provider BLS posted a message from India's mission blaming operational reasons for the decision. Tensions flared this week after Canada said it was investigating credible allegations linking India with the murder of the separatist leader. India angrily rejected the allegation, calling it absurd. Analysts say relations between the country, which have been strained for months, are now at an all-time low. The message about the suspension of visas was posted on the BLS website on Thursday. It read, quote, "Important notice from India mission. Due to operational reasons with effect from 21st of September 2023, India visa services have been suspended till further notice," unquote. The move comes a day after India issued an advisory urging its citizens travelling to or living in Canada to exercise utmost caution in view of the growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For all these stories and much more, you can visit our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara.
And I'm Sandro Satyajit. Good night.
Good night.